Last night I was watching or rewatching the match between Chantelle Cameron and this woman Araujo. I think that's her name. I'll call her Araujo. And as the fight progressed, I became more and more irritated by the commentary. Now the commentators, the Sky commentators, they gave Cameron credit. They said she was boxing magnificently, etc., etc. But all through the fight, they were calling attention to the weight problem that Araujo had, that she was apparently, at least officially, 5 pounds overweight. And then as the fight went further and further, as the rounds passed, they started talking about this woman's age. And by the end of the fight, they said, yeah, Cameron was great, but this woman, she was overweight, she's past her prime, and that was why things turned out as they did. Now I have a totally different point of view on this. I've watched quite a few of Araujo's fights before this, and when she was winning, no one said that she was too heavy, and no one said that she was too old. The reason Araujo looked so poor in that fight was quite simply that Chantelle Cameron is a great fighter, and she put on a great performance, the performance of her professional career. Cameron was magnificent, and Araujo had simply never fought anyone of that quality before, and that's why she looked bad on the night. It had nothing to do with her weight, it had nothing to do with her age. Cameron used the ring magnificently. She was all through, from the very first bell, she was using the ring. She was on the move, permanently on the move. And she wasn't just moving maybe over here or over there. She was literally traveling the ring. In fact, I found myself thinking, a lot of the time I found myself thinking of Katie Taylor, because she was fighting like Katie Taylor does when Taylor is up against, let's say, a hard hitter. It reminded me very much of Katie Taylor fighting on the back foot and how she uses the whole ring and moves all the time. Now, I'm not suggesting that Cameron was copying Taylor. Cameron was always good at using the ring, and she's an excellent fighter and a very intelligent fighter. So if Katie Taylor didn't exist, Cameron would still be doing something like what she's doing now. But I think it's almost inevitable that Cameron was, to some degree, influenced by Taylor, having watched Taylor using the ring the way she does. And a really good boxer, that's what they do, they learn from other boxers. But Cameron used the ring magnificently, absolutely magnificent. She was on the move all the time. That was one thing. She was fast, moving in and out. She moved in, gave off her jabs, moved out, and then moved around the ring a little more. And she kept this up all through the 10 rounds. You know, in, jab, or the combination, then out, and constantly moving. And Araujo simply had never fought anyone like that in her life. Now, if Cameron had been a lesser fighter, if she had got in close with Araujo, and Araujo likes to fight in close, if she had got in close and stayed in close, things might have turned out very differently. If she had got in close, stayed in close, and not moved around the ring as she did, it could have turned out very differently. So, this running commentary by the Sky people, that Araujo was really, really slow, and she was old and she was overweight. All of this is nonsense. If you watch Araujo's other fights, she's quite a good fighter, a very tough fighter, a very effective fighter. And if she'd been fighting a perfectly decent boxer, but not maybe on Cameron's level, if she'd been fighting the sort of fighters she's fought in the past, she would have won. And she would have looked impressive winning. But she wasn't just up against another fighter like the fighters she'd fought before. She was up against Chantelle Cameron. And Cameron really was magnificent. Now, I'm a huge Katie Taylor fan, and I'm Irish, so I'd be prejudiced in favour of her anyway. But I've been a fan for years here in Ireland, and I've been a fan for years when she was an amateur. But if Chantelle Cameron got in the ring tomorrow with Katie Taylor, I believe she would beat her. Now, Taylor's a great fighter and deserves all the fame and praise she's had. She's changed the face of women's boxing. She's helped bring the skill level up tremendously. But Taylor has her limitations. Probably her most obvious limitation is this business. On those relatively rare occasions when she gets an opponent into trouble, instead of stepping back, looking at her opponent and deciding, okay, which punches am I going to deliver? What killer blow am I going to end this fight with? Instead of doing that, Taylor, rapid succession, does this. A totally inefficient way of boxing. A complete waste. And, of course, Cameron doesn't do that. Cameron picks her punches. She picks her punches, then she throws those combinations in, and she mixes up her combinations magnificently. And she steps back and has a look at her work and then goes in again. So I think that if Cameron was to fight Taylor tomorrow, I think Taylor would look, I hesitate to say it, but it's the only way I can express it. If Cameron got into the ring tomorrow with Taylor, she would make Taylor look second rate, in my opinion. Not because Taylor is second rate, because she's not, but Cameron would be just too good for her. Cameron would outbox her. She's a better boxer, Cameron. Now, Taylor has incredible speed. She has a huge level of skill, but Cameron is a complete fighter. So that's really all excuse me, that's all I really wanted to say. But I was irritated. And again, watching last night, this commentary of this girl, Araujo, she's overweight. Now, I think Cameron was right about the weight. Cameron said she was closer to 10 pounds overweight. And I would guess she was certainly maybe 6-7 pounds overweight. But that wouldn't have affected Araujo. Araujo is a naturally heavy woman. She fights like a heavyweight. She moves like a heavyweight. She's got that slow, deliberate style of a heavyweight. And a few extra pounds wouldn't have made any difference to her. One last thing I would say, watching the fight last night, I was particularly interested in the the lead-in, the ring walks by each of the fighters, and then watching them in the ring before the fight, while the guy, the commentator, I can't think of his name, but while he was introducing the fighters and introducing the fight, if you watch again and you watch Araujo doing her ring walk, getting into the ring, getting herself into the mood in the ring. Then the camera goes to Cameron, you see her ring walk, but then the camera comes back to Rocco. And if you look at her, you can't help but be struck by the fact she looks healthy. She looks healthy, she looks fit, she looks confident. She looks like a fighter who is in the zone. And I remember on the night of the fight, and I thought Cameron was going to win. But on the night of the fight, I can remember watching this woman do her ring walk, and then I watched the camera on her in the ring. And the more I watched her, the more worried I became because she looked fit. Now, she's a heavy-set woman, naturally, and she has that heavyweight, laid-back, slightly slow, plodding thing about her. But she looked fit. She looked fit, she looked healthy, she looked in the zone and relaxed. She looked dangerous. And I was getting worried for Cameron's sake the more I watched her. Then she got into the ring, and of course, after a couple of rounds, well, after one round, she looked second rate. It wasn't because she was second rate or because she was old or because she was overweight. It was simply that Cameron was too good for her. So you guys in Sky Sports, it had nothing to do with Araujo's weight. It had nothing to do with her age. It had nothing to do with her having a bad night. It was all down to Cameron. She was just too good.